can tell her, you can tell her anything. She's a real good listener. You can tell her anything.
Yo, what's up, confidants? It's your girl, Father Longlegs. This is You Can Tell Me Anything, and I'm really excited to have a guest from New York City. We actually tried to record when I was in New York, but now, I'm gonna take this. We tried to record while I was in New York, but now we're all quarantined, and I realized that we can just do it via Skype or FaceTime. So that's what we're doing. I'm really excited to introduce my guests. They're so funny on Twitter. You can follow them at Jes Tom. It is Jes Tom. What's up?
Hi, thanks for having me.
I actually do want to read a tweet. I had this pulled up before you mentioned your Twitter, because this is like this tweet is. I like to read tweets from the guests, but this one just stuck with me. It's like a little older, but I liked it so much I wanted to read it. You tweeted, "Society is so obsessed with binaries that we've convinced ourselves ass is the opposite of titties." And that just made me laugh so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I like that one because it's about math.
Yeah, it's kind of got many layers there, and it's very much like that's what's so cool about your Twitter. I feel like it is like it's so you, but then it's also like these jokes that are like so many different like. I feel like it's like a Venn diagram of like many parts of you, but that other like so many people can relate to in different areas. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. Like I feel sometimes I'll like do something where I feel like this is too niche. Like I'll make a Shakespeare joke, but that's what I feel like you do that so well because you're like it's niche, but it's not. It's you, and so people come for that. You know.
My favorite part about writing jokes, and particularly Twitter is a great medium for this, is about like taking. Like, Twitter is, like, the hive mind where everybody's talking about everything and taking, like, this thing and then mashing them together. And then I'm like, and somebody will be in the middle of the Venn diagram where we understand this.
Yes, and that's the best part, when you find that person who gets it. But I like to start with a good confession, just to have a positive note. Is there something good you like to confess?
Wow, okay. Well, I have to be perfectly honest with you that when you said you were going to ask me for a good confession, I was like, well, I better think about this right now.
Well, it could truly be so simple as like something that made you smile today or yesterday, or something you're looking forward to, or something cool you've done recently you want to plug that usually it's like weird to brag, but I'm giving you permission to just like brag about something cool in your life.
This is not that cool, but something I have been doing this quarantine is I started setting up my room, which doesn't sound... Okay, the deal with that is that I have technically lived in my room for like 3 years.
Okay.
But I never really moved in because when I was moving in, I was in like an intensely codependent monogamous relationship, and I mostly just lived at that person's place.
Gotcha.
So I like... it was like a mattress on the floor surrounded by boxes. And then we broke up, and even still it's been about 6 or 7 months and I hadn't done anything about it, and now it like looks like a room now.
Are you in your room now? Because I see art and it looks really cool from here.
So what's funny is I'm not actually in my own apartment right now in a safe best practices way.
Okay.
I
know, being like a semi-public person, I feel like every time I'm like slightly out, I have to like preface it with like, I'm just doing this. Like I'm like, I'm outside in my garage. It's my garage. Like,
well, I saw your opening bit on comedy quarantine last night, which was so funny.
Oh,
by
thank
the way,
you. I wish I had more time to. Thank you so much. I wanted to do something physical, and I truly came up with that right before. And now I'm like, oh, I kind of want to try to think of more sketchy things like that. But yeah, for anyone who didn't see it, on this like live stream, I pretend I was kidnapped. I just was like, it would be fun to do something physical where I have to escape my car. But then now that I've done it, I'm like, I wish I thought of more of a angle to it besides literally just escaping and starting. Because it is fun to kind of play around with the physicality of being live.
It was so fun, and I was like, oh, like, that's so creative, and people are coming up with ideas. But the reason I thought of that was that when you got out of the car, like, I thought you were going to do the whole thing from inside the car. And then when you got out of the car and were running outside, I was like, oh, like, she went outside.
She's outdoors. She's contagious.
So right now I'm my upstairs neighbors, none of them are here because they all have people who love them who they have to go be with. So they gave us the keys to the apartment, ostensibly so we could water their plants, but also their apartment is really nice. So I've been coming up here and hanging out.
Oh, that is nice. Yeah, I guess more and more like of my friends are just at their family's house now. Like it's like at first there was a wave, and then now more and more I'm like everyone's just home, and then now I'm like, I guess I could go home. Like, should I go home to see my parents? It's not like I'm worried. They're like older, but I think they're fine. Like, I don't think they're at risk, so I feel like it's okay. But then a part of me is like, I guess I should see them just for the sake of family.
You guys are in such better shape over there, because like at this point, I'm like, I can't go anywhere. Like, or I wouldn't feel good.
Well, New York is so hard to travel because you can't just get in a car and drive away. You got to like go to a train stop or like whatever. It's just so hard to travel alone, you know?
Yeah, it's like hard for me to think of. I mean, a ton of people have left and gone to lots of different places, including with their families. But like I personally, I wouldn't feel safe for my family if I went from here to go see them.
Where did you grow up?
I'm from San Francisco.
Oh, okay. Did we talk about this? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think like the very first time, because you're from the Bay also, yeah?
Yeah, South Bay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so funny because I know we like have interacted more online and then like hung out in person, but it's like sometimes the comedy world just blends in where I'm like, I feel like I can't remember if we officially met first in person or online. You know what I mean?
Totally.
But I like that about comedy. It's like the one cool thing about the internet now, I mean, that everyone is on it, but we were all like comedians, I feel like have adopted being able to make connections on it much before everybody else.
Oh, the internet is massive for that. I feel that for comedy. I feel that from being a queer person. Mm-hmm. I feel like I know so many queer Asian people from the internet first, and then them in real life, sometimes like years and years and years later. And so you're like in the middle of the Venn diagram again.
Yeah, because I guess with comedy, well, when we were allowed to travel, it was a little easier to meet up. So, yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Well, speaking of just, like, sort of things being crazy, this podcast is sort of loosely inspired by going to therapy, because I started going to therapy late in my life and, really helped me to talk about stuff. So I'm curious, what's your relationship with therapy? Have you gone before, or do you enjoy it? Or, sort of give me a little background in terms of that.
Okay, I love therapy. I have been seeing the same therapist, Joanne, for the past, 4 years. I go in and out of going just because, I go in and out of being able to afford it, obviously. And I haven't, quote-unquote, gone yet since we've been in quarantine. Mm-hmm. I had, just planned to be okay, let me schedule another appointment, and then everything went down.
Yeah.
And I haven't made the move to do, a video call with her yet. Something about that feels almost because it's detached from the ritual of me, going there and signing into the building, getting into the elevator, ringing the bell. I'm just there's a ritual that I do here, and it doesn't exist in this world that we live in right now.
Yeah.
That I'm I have kind of a block up against it. But I really think that I should probably call her.
Well, it is tough. I'm the same way. I canceled 2 appointments since the quarantine. I haven't done a whatever yet. I did have a therapist reach out to. I have 2 therapists. Well, one is for specific.
Nice.
I know. I'm like, ooh, she's poly. No, but
I was gonna say, do they know about each other?
One of them does. The other one, I really did feel guilty, but actually don't.
Okay.
Actually, don't. I think she probably knows. And I'm really, part of this is just joking, but I did instinctively feel guilty as if I was cheating on her. But then I was like, it's fine. I pay her to talk to me.
Yes.
But the reason I have 2 is, one is a specific trauma therapy. But the first one, my talk therapist has experience doing that type of therapy, but I didn't really click when she did. It was EMDR, and she didn't really click with me doing that. So I found someone who I really liked. I never told her. And then when I went back to her, she was like, oh, have you thought about trying it again? And I was like, I think I'm good. It's oh no, it's I went and did anal with someone else or something. I don't know. I don't know what the
that's so funny. You're
metaphor in sex would be,
just
but
more gentle. She's more gentle with me.
Yeah.
I go to each of you for different things. You're all valid. You're all valid to me.
But I haven't gone since the pandemic. I do also feel weird because, I mean, part of it is this, like, paying for it. I'm like, it feels like I don't want to pay so much money for a video. But I think I'm in the same boat where eventually I will because we're going to be in this for a while. But yeah, I think it's totally okay to go in and out. And I think the most important part is starting and setting up a relationship. Because, like, I think when you're in crisis mode, that's when it's like, oh, I can call up, you know, I'm not going to say her name, but I call up my therapist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, something that I found is funny, I guess, about being in this situation is, like, you know, in my most, like, hopeful heart, I really hoped that, like, the, like, global crisis throwing the world into disarray would make my own personal problems seem, like, unimportant. Or, like, I would be like, oh, that's, like, nothing. Like, that's small bananas. But instead it's exacerbated them.
Oh, wow, okay.
And it's made me be like, oh, God, like, you know, like, it's the end of the world, and, like, you can't text me back, like, kind of thing.
I relate. Okay, yeah, the whole idea of being like, I shouldn't care about a text back, but you're still worried about it, even though the world's ending. Yeah, it can kind of go both ways, right? Like, I think there are studies that show, like, in times of crisis, like, you kind of sometimes, like, put aside, like, if you're feeling depressed or anxious, almost goes away, like, but not, it doesn't really go away, but it goes away in that, like, there's a more urgent matter at hand. But it could also go the opposite way, which sounds like it's happening for you, where you, like, all of those anxieties get even more inflamed. So yeah, that's so interesting that you felt, but going in that I was gonna say change it.
I just had a dream that I was gonna, you know, that it was gonna be like my character arc, and then I was gonna walk away from this like a bigger person or something. But no, it turns out I'm still learning with everybody else.
Well, the one cool thing, I mean, I don't say cool, but maybe positive, or I've really lost my vocabulary being home and not talking to people. Some sort of word in between inspiring and enlightening, but I don't think that's the right. There's a word I'm thinking of, but anyways, the one positive thing about everyone going through a crisis together is you do feel more connected, at least. Like, even though it doesn't necessarily solve the problems you have, in a way, it makes it that if you reach out to anybody, like, at any point, you'd be like, how are you doing today? People, like, know exactly what you mean. It's not like why are you asking me? So I think it is easier to get to those, like, mental health conversations sooner and also get that support. So that's the cool thing I found. Like, sometimes I'll just text a friend and just start being like, well, I'll be like, how are you? And then they're like, how are you? And then I'll be like, well, this is happening. It's like, yeah, but, like, usually you kind of stay surface, but it feels like everyone's kind of communally helping each other out, like, just listening, which is kind of nice. But
totally. Full disclosure, this was a tweet the other day, but mortality has entered the chat. We're all, the stakes are higher now, so now we all can talk about this shit.
Man, it is very, it's a lot. But it's also, I mean, it's important to remember, like, problems have always been happening, so it doesn't mean, like, when this is over, everything's going to go away. So I think that's also important to remember, like, to continue taking care of yourself. Because I could imagine there might be, I don't think the word is a come down, but there's going to be, like, a culture shock after this, too, when people are faced with their day-to-day problems again, and it almost feels like you're coming back from some weird realm, and then you're almost sad that you're still sad because you should be happy, you know?
Totally. And we're all gonna remember if our lives sucked before, they might suck again. Probably worse. I'm just kidding. I'm actually, like, a generally pretty positive and hopeful person. So
that's good.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, speaking of stay positive and person, my transitions are not good. I suppose. Okay. Speaking of thinking about things and progress, none of these transitions work. Anyways, Jess, I guess I just want to ask you, is there anything you would like to tell me?
Yes, and this is definitely totally off the radar of a global pandemic.
Okay.
My confession is I am a prom night virginity loser.
Ooh, that's a good one. We've never gotten that before.
It's I really haven't talked about it that much, which is funny because there's nothing like deep and dark about that, but I find it to be a kind of like embarrassing secret.
Too cliche, you mean? Or what's embarrassing about it for you?
Yeah, it is. It's cliche, and like I feel like, especially as like a comic and as like a public persona, my reputation is sort of that I'm like counterculture and like cool and like alternative, but like at the end of the day, I lost my virginity on prom night, like, and we planned to do it that way, to a girl.
Was it her first time as well?
Yeah.
So it was very much like a movie, 80s movie.
It was very classique, which was funny because also I didn't go to a school like that. I went to like a tiny private alternative, like artsy San Francisco high school where people were like fucking and doing cocaine like all the time.
So in a way, it was counterculture to be traditional there.
Yeah. Yes, always have to do something different. And it was kind of crazy the way that it went down too. She had a friend who was like spending the night somewhere else.
Okay.
So her house was like empty or something for some reason. Her like dad was out of town. So she was like, I'm going to give you the keys to my dad's house.
Wow.
Yeah. And we like lied to my mom to get her to like bring us there or something. And and so we were in like the empty house of our friend's dad.
Wow. So
and
this is like a community effort.
Yeah, a lot of people put work into this. Well, this girl actually, the friend, particularly put a lot of effort into it. She like set the place up for us, which this is weird because now I'm like, this was like her room. There were like rose petals and shit.
Well, I mean, I think in high school, and I feel like now if a friend of mine did that for me, I'd be like, that's your room. But I feel like as kids, you're not thinking like that. I know what you mean about it. It's like, whoa, they're going to fuck on my bed. But I think as a kid, it does seem like you just watch movies and you're like, oh, it's sweet. When you have couples that are or your friends are couples, you kind of like want to watch the love blossom because it doesn't happen that much in high school. Like there's only a few like strong couples in high school and everybody's all about their business because it's like, wait, so were you guys dating officially or was she just your prom date or?
We were dating. Okay. Yeah, we had been dating like a month at that point.
Oh,
so
wow,
this was
okay.
like
So this is a new relationship.
Well, this was the very, very end of my senior year of high school. This was my first girlfriend ever. But I had been out as like some kind of gay person for like all 4 years. And I guess it was a new relationship, but again, because it was high school and because it was like the end of senior year, it seemed like the time to do it.
Yeah, sure. High school, I'm like, I guess a month in high school can be a long time. Because it's like, what is high school romance? You can spend all your time together and then you're immediately, a lot of hormones, a lot of time, and you can move very fast. Or it could move very slow. It can go the other way. So.
But that was the first time I had ever dated anybody. So I like didn't have any experience outside of that. I just was like, okay, like I guess this is how it goes.
Were you influenced by movies and like that sort of thing? Like where the idea of losing your virginity on prom night? I know it's in the zeitgeist, but I'm just curious for you, where did that come from?
I don't know that it came from any particular place. I think that it just was in the zeitgeist for me. And it just seemed like an opportunity to do it, rather than like having it like kind of randomly happen, which had also sort of happened. There is a little bit of a question as to whether like that was actually when I quote unquote lost my virginity, because as with any couple that's like non-penis people, I guess, it's a little up in the air, like when you're like having sex.
Sure, where you're like fooling around versus yeah. But I think even with because because even with like hetero intercourse, I don't know, what is the term? It's just called sex, I guess. They've made it the norm, but I like to give it a name so it feels different. Even that, like, when I was younger, there were times when I hadn't lost my virginity, but then when I did, it felt like anticlimactic because it's really, they make it all just about that one thing where you're like,
totally.
Well, that wasn't a thing either. And then you're like, wait, so then should I go back and count that or this or like, so I think
totally
it's all the framing of it.
And also, I mean, as a former sex educator.
Oh, I don't know if I knew that about you. I know you do like talks, but I didn't like or you do college tours, but I was thinking there may be more like comedy angle. Were you doing that? Was that part of touring? No, am I confusing things?
For colleges, I mostly have done comedy. I did, like, in the very, very beginning, I went to the 5 College Queer Conference at Hampshire College, and I also did a sex toy workshop, but I also did a half hour of comedy, like, unrelatedly.
Oh, gotcha.
But yeah, for the first 3 years that I lived in New York, I worked at, like, an upscale sex shop and taught classes and stuff.
Oh, cool.
So that's in my lexicon. But yeah, as a former sex educator, quote unquote, obviously now I would tell you, like, all of those things are sex. Any of that is sex. But for, like, a 17-year-old,
sure,
like, in the early 2000s, I was like, well, something happened that one night, and I don't totally know about that. But definitely on prom night was when I definitely could be like, okay, yes, that definitely happened.
Yeah, and you guys had planned it too, so that's also important. It's like it was like you in your mind wanted it to be this special thing, which is what people say it's supposed to be. And of course, everyone has their own story about virginity, but I think it is really interesting that in your mind you're like, okay, this is going to be the thing, and then you did it that way. So what were your expectations going in? Like what did you think the night had to be? Obviously, it was planned in a certain way.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I think that I honestly was mostly anxious about the lie.
Uh-huh.
Like,
to your parents, or?
Yeah,
okay.
To my parents. Her parents had probably been lied to. That would not be the last time we lied to them about, like, where we were or where we were going, specifically so we could go have sex in, like, someone's weird empty house. I've done kind of a lot of that. Empty houses, empty dorm rooms, empty rooms.
Other
somewhere.
people's rooms.
Yeah, other
That's
people's
funny.
rooms.
I guess this is like, I wonder what it, like, now that Airbnb exists, and like Uber and Airbnb, I'm like, teens just, everything's handed to them. I mean, I don't know.
And they all look cool because they're all on Instagram already.
Yeah.
So they, I was really sort of like a prodigal good girl. So it really stressed me out to be, like, lying like this. But at the same time, I was a deeply, deeply horny teenager. Like, absolutely all the way through my entire adolescence and now into my adulthood. And I don't think that I thought, like, this girlfriend and I got together in the last 2 months of senior year. We had been really good friends, but we had one of those weird, like, close female friendships where it was like, I don't know, we, like, fall asleep in each other's arms a lot.
Yeah,
at,
that
like,
tension.
Sleepovers, but, like, I guess we were really good friends. And I had had so many, like, unreciprocated crushes that I don't think I ever thought any of this was going to happen. And then it suddenly started happening, like, right at the very, very end. So all of it was all kind of, like, stressful and, like, kind of sad for me because I was being like, oh my God, and then we're going to graduate, and then we're going to, like, go to different colleges, which actually we ended up dating through most of our first year of college, which was a bad idea. We shouldn't have done that.
But that's the thing, that's the part that people see in movies and don't listen to, where everybody's like, yeah, break up with your high school sweetheart before college. And everyone's like, no, we're the exception. And then everyone's like, oh, yeah. When you're, like, older, you're like, oh, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. But, we all want to make it work. I get it. It's your love of your life at that time.
Exactly. And when there's something as like big and like significant as like we like lost our virginities to each other. This is my like first relationship. It feels really important to try to like keep it together
Yeah.
for like no. And also, you're like 18 years old and your brain doesn't work. So
That is true. Yeah, that thing about it being sad, like I think there's something really like bittersweet about that, because it is like you're so aware that you're in this pivotal moment of your life, right? Like just like graduating and about to be an adult and leaving your childhood behind. It's so interesting that you were so self-aware of that, to like feel sad, but also to like enjoy the moment, but also be like, this is a part of my life that I'll look back on forever.
oh, I've always been like a deeply tragic person.
Why is that?
I don't know. I like things. I like things that are like a little bit uncomfortable. I like sad things. I like scary things. I like spicy food. I like
spicy food.
bitter tea. Like I like things that are like good with like a bit of an edge on them.
Gotcha.
And I feel like that translates a lot into my everyday life right now. Like, okay, I after being in a like 2.5 year long monogamous relationship, I'm doing open relationships again, which I think of as like a sort of bittersweet thing. Although I think monogamy is also kind of bittersweet. It's all sort of like that.
Why do you think, or what makes you say being in an open relationship is a bittersweet thing as compared?
Well, I mean, because it goes against basically the entire narrative of like love as we know it in the Western world.
Is that what you in your mind expect love to be, or just because it's against like the mainstream idea?
I don't think I realistically expect it to be like that sort of like, you know, soulmate, like one love forever type thing. I don't really like realistically believe in it, but because that's the narrative that you get, every single movie that you've seen, every single song that you've heard, like comes from that point of view pretty much. It's hard to unlearn. And like it gets ingrained in you in this way.
That's interesting that you say that, because in a way it kind of ties to the theme of the you were saying like the traditional losing your virginity on prom night, like that there's a part of you, I don't know if this is correct or not, but I'm just making this connection of like a part of you that has these like fairy tale expectations based on what you've seen, even though you're aware enough to know like that isn't like you're being told these narratives, yet you still want it, yet you're like, it's totally cool, like I get that it's not the thing. Like there's this very complex sort of like mixture of wanting to fit that mold while also recognizing that like that isn't the mold. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally, absolutely. I do think of myself as having a sort of like heart self and a brain self, and that they operate sort of in tandem, sometimes against each other. Like sometimes I think that like as like an actor, one of my biggest dreams is to play a romantic lead. And I feel like the reason I want to do that is so that, like, through the practice of acting, I can go, like, 100% emotionally into this, like, soulmate, one love for everything, live it out truthfully, and then, like, be done with it. and have it, like, not affect my, like, real personal life and not have any stakes in what's happening, like, in my life.
That's so interesting. It's like a compartmentalization. Well, do you feel like, it's clearly a part of you. Why do you want it to not, do you feel like it would hurt your brand, like to be that emotionally invested in like a true love narrative?
No, it doesn't work for me.
Oh, okay.
That's what it is that, okay, so there was a co-star meme that came out some time ago. That was like hierarchy of needs, like a pyramid for each of the signs. And the Sagittarius one, and I am a Sagittarius sun, was like the second to last one was total romantic devotion. And then the one under that was total romantic freedom. And
Okay.
I saw that and I was like, oh no.
That's so funny. My Venus is in Sag, so I do kind of relate a little bit to that. But my Sun is Scorpio, so I'm a little bit more like, I will die for you.
Yeah, so you want to grab people. You want to
Yeah,
hold them.
it is interesting what you're saying, because I think yeah, I think being an actor and comedian, like, you are able to explore those more creatively, because sometimes you can do a character or you can explore it through a sketch, but it is all facets of you. So I find that really interesting, that being so like counterculture or trying to be alternative, there is a part that you're just like, this is the traditional fairy tale ending that I want.
I'm a deep romantic at heart, and it's funny because like I feel like as like a romantic and sexual being, there's like I feel like I present very publicly, and especially like on Twitter and more on stage these days, as sort of like a pervy fuckboy, which is real. That is sort of how I am. Though I'm not like a bad fuckboy, but like I like look around.
Like a Shane, like.
Yeah. Yes. But
And we need those.
But not a
We love bad boys, you know. We need those.
But then there's this other part of me that is really, really like a real romantic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little hard to consolidate the two. Even as like, you know, just because you're non-monogamous doesn't mean that you like can't be romantic.
Right.
Like, that's not what it is. It's just that like the way that we've been taught what romance is and how romance goes totally against that concept.
That's so interesting, because yeah, I've thought about this too. I mean, for most of my life I've identified as monogamous and tried and really wanted that and been very like, don't ever cheat on me, don't ever speak to another woman, whatever. But you know, more recently in the last year or so, I've like explored the idea of being poly, and I've never fully been in an open relationship. But I think for me, what I've always been afraid of with those is just like fear of abandonment, which is my own shit, right?
Totally.
Like, that's me. That's not the person I'm with. That's not my partner. That's all me. So once I've realized like, oh, all my fears were me based, what if I like went the other way and like, I don't know if it would work for me, but I think what was cool about exploring the idea was just like, oh, what if I'm more about making my partner happy and attending to their needs? Maybe their needs are to be monogamous, fine. But like, if I put aside like, I need you to not cheat on me, and make it more like, I want to make you happy, whatever that means, like that opens it up to this like cool new definition of love, which I'm still kind of learning. Like, I don't know if I'm fully there yet. I do get jealous for sure, but like, I really want to be at that place where I'm just like, this is making you happy and I trust you and I'm okay with that.
I think that we're all just learning. And I think that we're all probably going to learn for, like, the rest of our lives, which is a scam. And I think, like, I really identify with what you're saying about the, like, me fears.
Yeah.
Because I do think that that's what we have to get over, and I grapple with this now. Because, like, I've dated monogamously and non-monogamously in a few different configurations. And they're all kind of hard for me. It's just like different.
Because you're in them, so whatever issues you have in your mind that you haven't dealt with, you're gonna bring them into whatever relationship.
Exactly.
But
and
everyone's doing that too. It's not like nobody, I think, is ever fully responsible for how a relationship goes, because everybody is a part of it. Whether it's 2 of you or 4 of you or whatever, you're all part of it. Yeah.
Absolutely, and we're all like. It's like exercising different muscles. You know, monogamy versus non-monogamy. Like, I feel like in monogamy, you're exercising a muscle of this, I guess, is you're exercising a muscle of like focusing on that one person and attending to that person, and also like not like looking around, like not flirting with people on the internet, not like, I don't know, liking other people's nudes. I don't know what the rules are. And then in non-monogamy, you're exercising the muscle of, like, not being jealous. Like, when this person has other dates or they're in another established relationship. Or, you know, exercising the muscle of, you know, communicating feelings of jealousy or like feeling bad about like this or that, which really you should be doing in monogamy also. You should be exercising all those muscles. I don't know. We're all learning.
Right. Well, yeah, something you said that I thought was interesting is this idea of like you're exercising this muscle because it's not sometimes people think when they meet the right one or the perfect, like, you know, they figure out, oh, I'm actually poly and that'll solve everything. They think it's like now everything's perfect. But think about how your relationship with yourself is. Like, even when there's nobody, right? There's nobody, no object of desire, no relationship. You're still going to have up days and down days. You're going to have days where you're jealous of your friends. And when that happens,
Absolutely.
You're not like, well, I guess my relationship with myself is over. I hate me forever. It's out. Like, you don't think that because you have to live with yourself. So when you are with a partner, you kind of like choose to work it out. Obviously, you have to recognize red flags and blah, blah, blah. But like, just because some days feel bad doesn't mean that the relationship is bad. So
Totally.
yeah.
That's so wise and true. And I feel like something that I struggle with a lot is like to not be like, okay, just because like I had a bad day with this or that, you know, that means it'll be bad forever.
Yeah. But it's hard. I mean, it's really hard. I don't think I'm quite there yet, but I've gotten better at listening to the red flags. Like, that's the thing. It's like, if someone
Totally.
makes you feel bad over and over and you have to really listen to yourself, right? Like ask yourself, like, is this a normal situation or is it not? And then, you know, get out of it's bad. But then there's also just like two people clashing because, you know, one person likes to interrupt and one person, but they're not doing it on purpose or whatever. Then you can work through that and that's okay. Yeah, it's tough, man. Wait, so you're a Sag. Do you find, I don't know if this is a true read of Sagittarius, but I feel like a Sagittarius like will run or have a urge to run away when things get too close. Like, but you're describing yourself like a hopeless romantic. Do you find yourself feeling like when things get like too, you know, when you get too attached or too intertwined that you do want to like push someone away? Have you ever had that feeling?
You know, I actually feel like I've had the opposite problem, which is more that I will stick around, even through something that I like don't think is necessarily ideal, or where I do see a lot of red flags, and I'm like, I'm that like people pleaser part of me comes out, and like, or like somebody like really really likes me and they like me more than I know that I like them back, and I'm like, well, but they like me so much, like how could I take me away from them?
Well, I guess that is a very selfless thing to say, but
is it, or is it like so narcissistic? I can't
That's
tell.
so funny.
Yeah, it's...
Well, yeah, because you chose to stay with your high school sweetheart through college, even though there's a pretty understandable break when you graduate, as hard as it would have been. Instead...
Oh, and that was not a good situation either. and because I like I went to women's college, and I went to women's college specifically so that I could be like a gay slut. And then, so when I ended up staying in this relationship, which ended up not being a great relationship because we were teenagers, and it was a long distance relationship, I like ended up being like very resentful of that. And it wasn't a good idea. But I do tend, and I'm really trying now to be like very aware of myself and like check in with myself and how I'm feeling, so that I don't stay in a situation that like makes me feel more bad than good.
I think that's really healthy and wise. And also, you can always change. Like, I mean, people always think like, oh, if I make this decision, then everything from now on is forever this way. But, you know, you can be like, oh, I've grown and you've grown and you can get back together. Like, you know what I mean? Don't break up with someone thinking that, because that's not a good way. That tends to lead to codependence and like, you know, break up, make up patterns. But I tell myself that when I'm like really scared to leave something, that like, you know, if it really, really is a mistake leaving, then like it'll work out. And that helps too, to not feel like everything's final forever. You know?
Absolutely agree.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I have a quick game. Would you like to play a game? Okay. This is a game based on, you tweet about Asian snacks, most recently shrimp chips, which I love. And I really wanted to bond over that because, you know, growing up in the Bay Area, like, you know, we got our fair share of Asian snacks. But then, of course, you know, as you become an adult, you find out that people laugh at things like that, or they make fun of shrimp chips because they think it sounds gross.
They're losers then.
They're so good. I think now they sell them at, you know, American grocery stores, but, you know, I get it. It looks different, and it's called shrimp chips. But this is sort of an homage game to the delicious Asian snacks we grew up with. Or if you guys don't know what shrimp chips are, in Chinese, it's called sha wei shen. So that's what that is. But there is a reason that 7-Eleven in Asia is glorified. You know, it's worshipped. Whereas in America, it's a last resort for teens in suburbia. And a lot of snacks in America are used as like slang, like pet names, like positive things, like, you know, cupcake, or like, you know, he's beefy, whatever. I don't know. Beef is not a snack. You know what I mean. So basically, this is a pretty fun, loose, improvised game, but I'm going to just like give you a snack, an Asian snack. You can tell me if you recognize it or not, and then we'll just come up with what the made up definition of it is, if it's like a slang term. Does this make sense?
Oh,
so like
for like a person?
Yeah, like a person, and yeah, some just like what would be the slang definition?
Okay.
Does this make?
Cool.
I feel like I explained it weird.
I think I got it.
Like.
So like.
Yeah.
For like beefy as an example, it's like a strong,
like
a strong
hunky
guy,
dude.
like a muscle hunk.
Exactly. Okay. There you go.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm following.
Very simple. Okay, just so I can talk about snacks. Okay, so let's start with shrimp chips. That's the first one. Shrimp chips.
Shrimp chip. That's a shrimp chip is like a friendly young man, a friendly gentleman caller, a friendly gentleman caller that your mom approves of, for sure.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
For
So
some
you're
reason,
like,
when I hear, sorry, what was that?
It's like, you know, Justin. I don't know if he's the sexiest, but he's a definite shrimp
The
chip.
one your mom wants you to date. I like that. That's funny. It's like, oh, what? Did you hear Justin just graduated from MIT? He's back home for the holidays. You should call him. That's a shrimp chip. Okay, the next one, Pocky.
Pocky. Okay. Pocky's a skinny bitch.
Ooh, okay, I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's always wearing like a little black dress. Pocky is, you know, the chocolate pretzel.
Just like frosted head to toe.
So it's like it's like an insult, or would you call it out of like, would it be like sort of an endearing term for each other? You're like, you skinny bitch, or is it just like, she's such a Pocky?
I think it's like it's like multiples, you know, because Pocky comes in a pack. It's like, look at those Pockies.
Oh, I like that.
That
yeah.
sounds almost racist. I take it back.
Well, we don't know. The Pockies come in different colors, so it's not about race. It's about your attitude. If you travel in a group of girls who look like you're unoriginal and you're a Pocky. There you go.
You might be.
Okay, dried bean curd.
Dried bean curd. Dried bean curd. So good.
It is so good.
Like a elderly neighbor.
Okay, I like that. Okay, elderly neighbor.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide if it's a positive or negative, though.
Yeah, I know, because the food is good, but then when I hear dry, it's usually...
It sounds like an insult.
Yeah, it could be an insult. It's your elderly neighbor that's always telling you to pipe down.
Yeah, or like, get off my lawn. I'm
Okay.
like, God,
Yeah,
Mrs. Henderson, such a dried bean curd.
I love that. Okay, the next one is yan yan.
Yan yan.
Do you know what these are?
Absolutely.
Okay,
of
great.
course I know it.
They're so delicious. Guys, have a yan yan.
Yan yan is like a man whore, like a man
Ooh,
slut.
okay.
Because, you know, you're always double dipping.
Yes, there you go. I love that. You're just like, last night I was a yan yan. Yep. Hit up
Yes!
4 different people on Grindr. Okay.
Yes, you were.
Okay, here's the final one. It's shredded squid.
Shredded squid. I really want that to be a sex position.
Ooh, okay, what would it be? It sounds like hard. It sounds like one of those ones like you have to work up to and look at a diagram.
Yes, it does sound difficult. Or it's like after you've like had a lot of sex and you're like really tired and like you need to like go to sleep and take a nap. It's like shredded squid. It's like all like laid out, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Ripped apart.
Ooh, okay, that's a good one. So it's like, wow, I had so much sex last night, I was a shredded squid. Or it's like when you're like tired, but you still want to go again, but then like it's like the final one, everyone's just tired, and you're just like, okay, we're gonna come, but then that's it. Everybody agrees, like this is it. Yeah. Okay, I like that.
That's the agreement.
Well, thank you so much. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just was gonna say that took a weird horny turn, but that's quarantine, baby.
That's okay. Everybody's horny in quarantine. Well, where can people find you if they would like to follow you? I mean, I guess I said it earlier, but just plug your things, all the things you want to plug.
You can find me on Twitter at Jes Tom, that's JESTOM, or on Instagram at Jes the Kid. And also, I actually just updated my website with the Instagram Live and Zoom shows that I will be doing. So those are available at www.jestom.com.com.
Nice. I love it. And you can follow this podcast at Tell Me Anything Pod and follow me at Larissa T on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you.